Hey everyone, it's Mrs. Lawrence and I'm here today to talk to you about the distributive property with combining like terms. So we're going to use some distributive property, we're going to combine like terms, we're going to put the whole thing together and see what happens. So, it's go time. Love some retro Power Rangers and Ninja Turtles. Here we go. So as you are all aware, hopefully, that when you are using the distributive property, you want to take the term that is on the outside of the parentheses and you need to multiply it with every term that's located inside the parentheses. What does that all mean? Now, you've done distributive property in the past. I could almost guarantee that you have, because you have made it to Algebra 1, so I know you have, right? So let's look at a couple examples. So let's look at example 1. I have 7 on the outside of my parentheses. That means I'm multiplying 7 to 3n plus 10. Now, 3n plus 10 are two separate terms. You can almost think of them like two separate numbers. So that 7 is not going to be multiplied to just 3n, but also to the 10. So we need to make sure that we distribute it by multiplying. So it's going to be 7 times 3n, and then we're going to distribute that to the 10 as well. And we get 7 times 3n plus 7 times 10. So it's like two separate multiplication problems. The number of terms that are located inside the parentheses are going to tell you how many different multiplication problems that you are going to have to complete. So there's two terms, so we have to do two multiplication problems. So I have 7 times 3n, which is 7, so I'm just going to multiply the coefficients, which is 21, and I just have the variable n. And then I have 7 times 10, which is 70. And that's my final answer. Let's look at another example. So this one, I have included a negative sign. So negative 5 times negative 8n plus 2. So we have to be super careful when we are multiplying with a term on the outside of the parentheses that is negative. Why, may you ask? Well, we have to make sure that we distribute that negative sign with the 5, that it doesn't become left out, because as Forrest says, Mama always said, don't forget to distribute the negative. So if Forrest Gump is telling us, that means that's what we need to do. So I'm going to take negative 5 times negative 8n, and then it's going to be negative 5 times positive 2. So just how I have it broken out here. So then, negative 5 times negative 8n, we have to focus on our coefficients. A negative times a negative is a positive. Mr. Lawrence was looking at me funny as I was saying about Forrest, so I was trying my best to ignore him. So negative 5 times negative 8 is going to be a positive 40n, and then negative 5 times a positive 2 is going to be negative 10. So I don't need to put plus negative. It's kind of redundant. We don't include that plus sign. We just leave it like that. So now we're going to step it up a bit. So now I'm going to give you a couple of questions that might be a little bit more challenging. So why would it be more challenging? Well, I'm sure if you look at this, you can see it's like example 1 and example 2 put together. So we're going to take this quantity and we're going to subtract this quantity from it. But before I can subtract that from it, I need to first use the distributive property, and I need to distribute that 4 to the n into the 9, and then this 3 to the 2 into the 9. N, not 9. So what that's going to look like is this. Like I just said, 4 times n, and then it's going to be 4 times 9. And then negative 3 times 2, and then negative 3 times n. And what that looks like is that. So what I just said, broken out like that in fancy different parentheses. So I have 4 different multiplication problems that I need to do first before I can combine any terms together. So I'm going to do the multiplication. So 4 times n is going to be 4n. I'm going to just show you the answer here, or not the final answer, but this step. So 4 times n is 4n. 4 times 9 would be 36. Negative 3 times a positive 2 is negative 6. And then negative 3 times n is negative 3n. So I need to, before I can sit there and say, job well done, I'm all done, I need to look at those terms like, ooh, can they be simplified? Can I make this smaller? Because that's still a lot. That's 4 terms. I can't even call it a trinomial or anything. It's just still a polynomial because I got 4 terms. So I want to say, can I make that smaller? So I'm going to look, can I see any like terms? And I see, Oh, there it is, 4n. Do I have any other n? Ooh, there it is, negative 3n. And then I have this 36. Do I have any other just regular number? I sure do right there. So I'm going to regroup those, and we're going to organize them so that the circles are next to each other, and then the terms with the triangles are near each other. And I'm going to do my two separate math problems here, my two separate addition problems. So I have 4n plus negative 3n. So 4 plus negative 3, or just 4 minus 3, which is n. And then 36 minus 6 is 30. And there's the answer, n plus 30. So we went from this up here at the top all the way down to this much more simplified version of this. This is a lot easier to comprehend than this is. So then if I know what n is, I could just like, oh, n is 5, well then it's 35. Or n is 12, oh, so then it's 42, if we were to find out what n was. Let's look at another example. So I have another example over here, similar to the one we did, a little bit, I got another more minus sign, so sometimes we get freaked out by minus signs, but it's going to be okay. So the first thing, again, I have to notice is I have that term on the outside, and I need to make sure that I distribute it to everything on the inside. So 5 times 6, and then 5 times 9. N. I do that a lot. Side note, I do that a lot. I am not sure why, but when I see the letter N and I'm doing math stuff, I like to say 9 instead of N. My brain must be thinking, well, it starts with N. I don't know. Anyways, back to the problem. Negative 2 times n, and then negative 2 times negative 2, and it's going to look like this, right? So now I have to do 1, 2, 3, 4 different multiplication problems, and it's not anything that you cannot handle as an algebra student, right? So 5 times 6 is 30. 5 times n would be 5n. Negative 2 times n would just be negative 2n. And then negative 2 times a negative 2 would just be 4. And just like in our previous example, I have 4 terms here. I think I probably could get that smaller. Let's see. So I have a 30. Do I have any other number? Right there. So he's going to get circled. Then I have 5n. Do I have any other terms with just an n attached to it? Right there. Group those together so that they are side by side so we can easily add them. 30 and 4 make 34. And then negative 2n plus 5n. So negative 2 plus a positive 5 is going to be a positive 3n. I know I kind of put them in a different order. I wrote my answer in standard form where the variable should be first, constant should go at the end, okay? But if you put 34 plus 3n, it's also correct. It would not be wrong. So I hope that helped, and I think we are through. So hope that helped. If you have more questions, please make sure you reach out and ask, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.